welcome back to Old School. Today we're in PE class and we're going to talk about body composition. Before any kind of changes can be made in a lifestyle in regard to nutrition or fitness or strength or endurance or any of those things, you need to know where you're at to start with. And when I say body composition, I'm sure a lot of people immediately go to muscle and fat and kind of put up camp right there, but there is so much more to your body composition that you need to truly understand going forward. And especially if some of you are younger, that would have been awesome to know when I was younger, but okay, I did compete in bodybuilding, so I did understand body composition, I understood macros. But as I matured, I learned more. I'm kind of a geeky researcher. I drill down. I used to read Grey's Anatomy for fun, which is not just a television show for those of you that are on the young side. It is actually a book that's mostly in Latin that doctors, at least, I don't know if they have to read the whole thing, but they do have to read some of it. Anyway, I love understanding how our body works, what it's composed of, and what various supplements or foods or exercises or whatever it may be do specifically to me. I feel the same way about even like skincare or face care, just environmentally what we can be absorbing and taking in and understanding how my body detoxes that. I just recently went through a bunch of research on our detoxification organs and how they function. And I'll go over that in another session, in another class. But today I want to talk about body composition. I am going to use a little cheat sheet, make sure I don't miss some of the things that I think are important. In my book, I go over a journey I have with weight throughout my life, but in particular, shortly after my mother's death and my divorce is when a really big life-altering shift happened. And so I'll go over some of that later on, but prior to anybody stepping up to that information and trying to utilize it for their own situation, I need to cover these things, and I need to say over and over and over that actual results may vary. We tend to want to get a quick fix, or we look at something somebody else did and we want their exact plan. And for the most part, maybe period, there is none of us that are 100% identical situations, no matter what our age. You can stand two 25-year-olds together, two 50-year-olds together. The reality is each of us begin and end different hormonal cycles of our life, our sleep rhythm, our circadian rhythm, our metabolism. All these functions in our body are all over the place. And they're all impacted by so much. Genetics may set the table, but our choices are what we step up in the plates we choose to eat from, and ultimately how we walk away from that table. So none of us are exactly the same, and you need to understand some of these baseline basics before you should try anybody's anything. And I'm not a doctor. I have been certified as a nutritionist in my past. I have competed in bodybuilding, and I have researched the living daylights out of all of it just for me, because I want to be a good steward of my body and my health. I have no diagnosed conditions. I am not on medication. Am I in perfect condition? No. But I think I'm in really good health for somebody who's going to be 60 in a week, and I don't like that, but whatever. Can't turn back the odometer. So anyway, what I believe in retrospect people need to do before they embark on any kind of change, especially that impacts their self physically, is to get an actual body composition baseline. And body composition is not solely muscle and fat. It's water and bone. It is your organs. It is so many hormones and so many chemicals. And so we need to understand what those levels are. And because what we eat and how we exercise and some of the things we do can totally just jack those things up. Though our sleep rhythm alone can just put you in insulin resistance or really bad cortisol release times and all of these things, and understanding what all of those things are and why you don't or do want them releasing when they are, and why you want your sleep patterns to include various things. All of these things are important and impact you going forward. You might watch somebody be really successful at something, and you duplicate it, and you're frustrated, and you feel like you're kind of in the same space in life, but all of this impacts it, and that may be why you don't see the result that they may see. So understanding where all of this is before you head out, and there are multiple layers to how you need to do that. There's the literal go get a BMI, a body mass index, body composition. You can get it done by a trainer, by a gym. They have trainers there, or some of the people that work there can do that. You can go to your local college, depending. ASU, I know, has it in their sports nutrition or sports college. They will do the submersion body composition, which is like insanely the most accurate, unless something else has come up. I mean, I imagine there's some sort of body scan now that is even more accurate. But you can go off of those scales that you step on barefoot and have the little pads, and they tell you, muscle, water, fat, and bone. Now, I get those things may not be insanely accurate. However, they will be consistently as accurate as they were when you started. So that's the good thing. Whatever they say today, when you weigh yourself and look at those percentages, each week, if you weigh yourself on the same day, you should be, accurately inaccurate. So that is a poor man's version of getting a body composition, at least at that level. Measurements would be good. If you could have a family member measure you. You can do a Google search about, like the prime points that are good, but definitely, your arms, your chest, your waist, your hips, and then maybe your calves, just for like a symmetry situation. And I get, if you are not trying to build muscle, if you want to just be losing body fat, I get all of that. I'm just saying these are good measurements to have, because they tell you from multiple perspectives, so that you can't get your head stuck in a scale rut and freak out. Because if you do happen to be lifting and building a little muscle while you're dropping a little body fat or whatever it may be, those things may leave the scale even, but you can feel in your measurements and how your clothes fit and how you look that things are improving. So you don't want to get stuck somewhere that messes with your head. I've learned over the years, weight loss, piece of cake. Weight loss is so easy. But body composition shifting, losing body fat, toning and building muscle, making sure that your bone structure and your bone density stays good, these things are not easy. It is a science. And there are tests that can help along with body composition, lab work, bone density. Their bone density is usually not prescribed until you get older, for women, especially once you're going through your cycle or once you're having babies or what have you, so that they know if your mineral levels are good. But those things are all called preventive and should be covered and free, frankly, under your insurance, even if it's kind of crappy. You have a high deductible. Preventive, I do them every year, don't have to pay anything. I pay a very little for the lab, but I pay like $40 on $1,000 worth of tests that are just standard lab work each year. So really, this is another good baseline for you to understand, for women, where your hormones are at. Are you in a traditional cycle-bearing season? Are you pre-menopause? Are you in the middle of menopause? Are you post-menopause? Those things all impact, and those hormones are like dominoes, and they will frustrate the living daylights out of you if you don't get a handle on what's happening with them before you leap into making some changes that might not suit where your body's at right now. So those tests are really good to have, like those baselines. And then recording this, journaling this, journaling how you feel right now, this way, so that you know what it feels like when things are improving. I mean, you may have sat in a season where you're just kind of tolerating the fact that you always need a nap, or that you can't, haul all the groceries in without getting winded, or whatever it might be. So journal how you're feeling. While you're doing that, you can journal what you're eating and be honest, so that you have kind of a register of how you've been eating, and wow, what may have, caused some of where you are to be this way, so that you know how to make those shifts. Everything should be a lifestyle. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't have to change. I mean, there's an old saying, 10 miles into the woods, 10 miles out. We did a bunch of stuff to get us where we are. Expecting that to change overnight and not have to give up anything or make any sacrifice for it is just not acceptable. That's just unrealistic. Do you have to go to eating a celery stick and a piece of carrot every day? No. But you cannot continue to have deep fried food and takeout food all the time and not and expect to see results. It's just ridiculous. So all I can say is you have to have realistic thought processes about it, and having some good baseline information before you get started is perfect. Another thing is the annual exams that I talked about, like the bone density, but even like for women, your annual pap, for men, the prostate and the turn your head and cough and and all of that stuff, so you understand where your organs specifically that do process hormones or do detoxify, where those levels are, because labs alone aren't going to always tell. Being able to talk with your physicians that specialize in those things are perfect, and especially if you are having symptoms of any kind. I lost my boss this past tax season. He had never gone and gotten his colonoscopy. He was almost 65. You're supposed to get a baseline one at 50 unless you have family history, so you should get one before. And he had never gotten it. So he went to get it and was told that he had stage 4 colon cancer, and it had been going on probably in his system for like 10 years. So whether they would have caught it early on, I don't know. He responded well to chemo, got a perforated colon, and passed away 2 weeks later. He was a big guy, and it just took him, and just like that. And I get how people are nervous. They don't want to go to the doctor and take a test because, oh my goodness, what if he says something bad? Well, what if he does? Now you can do something about it. So getting a baseline before you start making shifts, because you could jump in, start making some shifts, and it could be all wrong, and now you're depressed and worse off than when you started. So before I'm going to talk about my journey in my book and where that led and how that helped me make body composition and lifestyle changes for myself, you need to do these things. You need to get a baseline situation of where you're at, where your hormones are at, where your blood work is at, how are your minerals, how are your sleep cycle. In that journal, write down how many hours are you sleeping a night. When you have a really bad night, what happened? What did you eat right before you went to bed that night? What impacted maybe an 8-hour sleep one night and a 4-hour sleep the next night? What you eat right before you go to bed matters. Those of you who think having a couple glasses of wine is going to help you sleep, wrong. I'm not saying you can't have a glass of wine. I'm telling you that alcohol prior to bed is, if you overdrink it and you pass out, that's one thing, but that is not sleep. That is not sleep. That is not good sleep. That is just passing out. And it impacts your digestion. It impacts all the hormones. It impacts all the sleep hormones. And it is not a good route for a sleep aid. So there you go. Sometimes the lifestyle changes, both of your nutrition and how and when you eat, can totally shift back your sleep cycle, which then dominoes and affects X, Y, and Z hormones. And now you start to see a shift in your energy, your endurance, your strength, your brain fog, and your focus. And there are certain conditions that people are wandering around with, pre-diabetes and diabetes, not the type 1, that can literally be toppled if You just pay attention to what you're eating, when you're eating it, what else you're taking in the form of supplementation, how you're exercising, because not all exercise is alike either. And not all of it accomplishes, just fat burning or muscle building. They are very specific in what they accomplish. So we'll talk about all those things and drill down. But what I would like to ask up front is for you to go and take care of these things. And these things are good for you to just know in the form of health. These things could detect cancer cropping up, and they'll see some different enzymes in your liver, or they'll see different levels being off and make you have to take the next level of tests, if you will. And that's not a bad thing. I understand a lot of people don't like hearing from the doctor because they don't want to hear bad news and go do something. But the reality is so much of what we encounter can be overcome and put in remission if it's caught early enough. So if you love yourself enough that you'd like to see your body composition change and some weight drop or muscle tone or whatever it might be that you're here for, then love it enough to find out what's going on so that you can be the most successful when you walk this process. So that's where I want to have the first class of PE class head for you. I get that all of that can be daunting, but if you can even accomplish a little bit of that, get those tests done, maybe even if all you journal is for like a week, just to get a good grip on things to bring back to the table, then we can start to take this step and the next step. And it can be more about a lifestyle and about you feeling awesome than it is about begrudgingly having to go make some changes and some sacrifices that you never see an outcome from. So this is where we're starting in PE class. This is like your sports physical before school starts. So go do these, and then I will see you the next time in PE class, where we'll kind of look at what they're saying and what's going on and what your doctor had to say and take the next step. Okay? So if you like what's going on, you like what you're hearing, like what you're seeing, if you could click like, click the bell, subscribe. I mean, you can do that and it doesn't cost you anything, and you can even do it, as I understand, in a way where it doesn't bug you every time I necessarily post a video, but you can if you want. And I'd love if we have any engagement. If you have some questions about the types of tests or where to go, there are definitely, here in Arizona, there's the Naturopathic College. Those same conventional medicine tests that can run hundreds of dollars at other hospitals or doctors or different surgery centers or what have you, are really inexpensive. I got an EKG at the Naturopathic College for $75, when at the cardiologist it was going to be $750. So those are some nice little side tips for you to go and get some of these exact tests. It's not, voodoo. They're real conventional medicine tests, the same tests, and you could go get them done and not be out of pocket a lot, but be able to really know where your body's at. So anyway, if you like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we will see you next time. So class dismissed.